Hey guys, I'm Aaron, and today we're going to take a look at 3 ways to add door and window openings to your model. So we did a couple of videos talking about taking line work and importing it, making the faces, and then different ways you can take those faces and make them into 3D shapes, 3D walls, shapes. And then the next step generally is now going in and adding doors and windows. We're not going to focus so much on creating the door and window component. I'm going to work with the pre-made component for a window, and doors are, well, we'll talk about doors too. Doors are kind of like windows that go all the way to the floor. But I do want to talk about different ways to put those openings in and how you could go about them. And it really, a lot of it comes down to how you created the walls. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll look at different ways to get those in there. So let's hop in. All right. So I'm working off of this same house that I started on back in the very beginning of this series. And here we have, basically, I want to put this same window in this wall 3 times. Once here, once here, once here. These are the 3 different ways your walls may end up as you're working through here and doing your input. So when I look here, this is probably the most common. So you're going about, you're drawing your walls, and if you are pulling up to 3D like we showed in the previous videos, you'll probably end up with a gap like this. If you're pulling along, you'll probably end up with a gap like this. There's a possibility that as you're drawing in your walls, you take the extra steps to break actual openings in. So you could have this at this point, which is kind of like, okay, you're done. But we'll talk about how to handle this. And then the other option you may end up, again, depending on how you're doing your input, you may just pull your wall all the way across an opening, which means you end up with something like this, and then have to go in and create that opening. So what do you do in that case? So let's take a look at these different situations. Like I said, I'm just going to work with this window right here. So I have a component. I'm going to put this same exact component in multiple times. So just to jump to number 2, if as I'm inputting it, as I'm walking along, I'm inputting my walls, if I actually go in here and I put a face down, I extrude it up to the sill plate height, and I put an opening I fill the wall in up here where the header's going to go, then I'm fairly well done. The thing to remember, regardless of what method we use here, is what is the actual opening height that I'm considering. And I point this out for a couple of reasons. And this is very similar to what I talked about when we talked about like how are you going to draw the walls and that sort of thing. The opening size you actually use is going to change depending on what you're using the model for. Just like anything else in SketchUp, this is a purpose-built model. That meaning, is this opening going to be the exact size of the opening that's called out on your plan? Is it going to be based on the actual size of the component? Am I going to have additional opening size there, considering like this is the hole in the framing versus finish? All of that is something that you need to consider as you model. I can't tell you exactly what size opening you need to put in for a 3040 window. That is something you need to know. In this case, I'm going to make my opening exactly the size of this window right here. So that's currently, let's check it out. So it's this is 3 foot by 4'6". And if I grab this opening or this window right here, it's going to plop right in there. And there we go. I'm done. I'm good. You'll notice right now I am working off raw geometry. That is intentional. That is just so I don't have to hop in and out of stuff. Like I said before in the other model or in the other videos, I would of course keep this all grouped as I go. I'm just doing it loose because it's going to speed up this process. I'm going to jump in and out. So yeah, so if as I was modeling, I took that into consideration, I left the proper opening size, then I can just come along, I can drop my components into those holes and be done. The most common thing is this right here. So this is where I have just a break in the wall. The wall stops, a door or window shows up here, and then the wall picks up on the other side. Again, I would say make sure that this width is the width you want. So we're looking for a 3 foot by 4'6" opening. This is 3 feet gap. That's perfect. Now I just have to put my 4'6" in. All right. So generally speaking, when you go to put in a series of doors, windows, whatever, a lot of them will have very similar measurements. So they might be different widths as I work across, but on the front of a building, I'm probably going to have a consistent header height. Same with interiors. Probably most of my doors on the inside have the same header height. So one of the things that I would recommend doing is getting an inferencing point that I could reference off of. So in this case, the top of this header is a perfect example. What I could do is I could come over somewhere off to the side and I can draw a vertical line in at whatever that height is. What this makes, the reason I do this is what this is going to do is make it real easy to inference off of that and then come over here and put a line across like that to break for that header right there. See how quick and easy that was? We've talked in the past about doing things like planes you can inference or invisible surfaces or something like that. And that's all cool, but it's just easier to, so here's an interior door right here or here. Same thing, I can just kind of inference there, come over here, draw across like that, and I got that height like that quick. So your call on how you want to actually do this. Because what you could do, of course, you could come up here and say, okay, I want to come up 7 foot and then draw that bottom line. However you get it, you just got to have a line there that breaks that, pull it across, and then to get rid of these extra edges, so there's 3 extra edges, you could come in with erase, erase, spin around, erase, or you just do a quick select like this, group select. That's too many. You don't actually want to do that. Don't do that, for heaven's sakes. The problem with doing a group select like that, like I just said, means I got this one right here. So I'd have to deselect that. And that wouldn't be quite as quick or easy to get rid of. But yeah, so maybe, I thought I had a tip there, but maybe just regular erasing is the quickest and easiest. What you can do, you can put all your door and window openings in and then just come along at one time and delete them, or use something like cleanup to join faces. That'll get rid of a lot of those edges, that sort of thing. All right, so if I am drawing a door, my opening is done at that point and I can go grab my component and drop it in. If I'm drawing a window, I got to bring the bottom up. And this is something, again, I can do something very similar because I could come up here, I could create a reference. Here's my whatever height that is. That ended up as a weird height there. But whatever that height is, I could draw an edge across like that. And then same thing, I can come here, inference up to this, or this point, come across here, draw that across, and then. So I could do something like that too. Same process, basically. The bottom, generally, again, I'm talking in generalities, folks. The top is probably going to be very similar across the model, where the bottom might step a little bit more frequently than the top. So you might have something where you have maybe multiple heights over on the side like this, where I can just inference them real quickly. The other thing, of course, is if I know exactly how big this opening is, I could always come here, drop down that height, and go across. Either way, that's going to get me the opening I want, and then I can pull that across like that. All right, the other possibility, like I said, this is the most common right there. And you can see that really, if I have some good inferencing, I'm going to draw another line across here just so I don't lose that snap point. If I have the right things to inference to, that can go pretty quick to close that up. Now, when it comes to what about when I have nothing and I need to put that in, there's a couple ways you can go about this. So if I have an opening that repeats, so say I want this twice, I want it once here, I would probably draw the shape onto the wall. So again, same thing, maybe inference right here. That's not going to work actually in this case. So what I'd probably do, if I just knew there was a 3 by 4.5 window here, here's what I would do. I'd pick a point, I'd come up to whatever my header height is. I can inference off of my reference point there, or I could type in 7 foot and then just draw my line over 3 foot, down 4'6", back over here, and then I have this rectangle. Now what I could do is I could find whatever my if I have my plan on the floor and I have a point I can reference to, I could use that. The other option, of course, would be to come in here and then maybe draw a quick line, or grab the tape measure and use it to figure out, okay, maybe the center of that is at 18 feet, so I could go 18 foot and then move that from the center to that point. And then if I knew my next one was 4 feet over, I could copy that 4 foot. The point is keeping this simple geometry and using that to mark out where the holes will be first is a great way to do it. In fact, I've actually done this where I have the same window over in a wall over here. So I will copy it and paste it and bring it over here and put it over in this wall. And then I can just do a quick vertical adjustment to that same height and then figure out exactly where it goes there. And then once I'm done with that, then I can come in here and I can pull that through, just snap to the backside, double click, and then I have that opening in. This is doing all of this without any kind of extensions. There are extensions out there that allow you to do things like use the window as a cutter or project openings through multiple pieces. This is all based on my walls being a single big group and not having loose geometry. I don't have, my sheathings separate from my framing, that kind of thing. So if you're in those situations, you may have more to consider than just this. But this is with just simple framing shapes, punching holes in there repetitively to get those openings in. And again, doors, I didn't do doors because doors are less work because you just don't do that bottom section. But yeah, pretty simple, quick, native commands to put all that information in there. Hopefully that all makes sense. And hopefully that makes it easy to put doors and windows into your walls. So again, just to call that out, there is some assumptions here. If you are working off of things where I have like a componented wall, where I have my framing on the inside, sheathing on the outside, my drywall on the inside, or whatever, all those extra pieces, then you might have to look at something like an extension that will punch a hole through all those things at once. Generally speaking, I think most people at this point will just work off of that mass of the wall. So again, that mass could be an individual wall. It could be a set of exterior walls. It could be a set of walls of a specific width. However you break it up and group it up, or group it out, just group it. No ins or outs. That's going to let you, the easiest, cleanest way is just going to be punch a hole in those. And that's a couple of options for doing it. I know that was a lot of options. This is a part I always, you guys, and if you watch me, I struggle. There's so many ways to do this stuff. And a lot of it comes down to what information do you need? What are you trying to get out of it? And what's the quickest workflow or most efficient workflow for you? So there's a couple of options. Check those out. Think about those. And let me know what you think down in the comments. If you like that video, click like down below. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe. We create several videos each and every week, and you'll be notified of all of them if you subscribe. Most importantly, though, more importantly than that, let me know if any of those tips are useful to you. If you have one that I miss, is there something that you use when inputting doors and windows that I should know about? And if you have any ideas for other videos, let us know down in the comments. We like making these videos a lot, like them even more when we're showing something you want to see. Thank you.